Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Son of a Witch Podcast with your podcast host, Mike D. That's who I am, and I am going to take you on another trip, give you a little bit of ear love as far as some of the spookiness or ways of the witch, some pop culture references. We're going to have all sorts of goodness in this episode. So, first of all, as I always do, let me get into a few quick announcements. One of those is that the magazine article that I have been mentioning is going to be coming up very soon. Again, it is released on the full moon. However, if you weren't aware, we have two of those this month, kind of like last month. We have another blue moon, as it's called, when we have 2 in 1 month, in 12 days, actually. So that will be coming up. We're also having a new moon in 1 day when this is released. This comes out on Friday the 13th. You guessed it, the 13th episode. On Friday the 13th. That's pretty cool. So, the new moon is actually going to be happening on Saturday, roughly around, I'd say, later that evening, if my sources are correct. So, if you have any new moon workings or spell work that you want to do, that will be the day that you need to plan to do that. I'm also going to, here in a little bit, go into some of the moon phases and how it affects you and things like that also. But first, that magazine article is coming out soon. You may have seen on the Instagram page that I have been sharing some of their posts and things like that so that you can get an idea of what the magazine is. It is an amazing publication. Very good publication. It is based out of the UK, and the person that has started this magazine is very, very active and concerned and caring about the witchcraft community. She wants to make sure that everything that you can learn about or are curious about is available to you, much like my podcast, which is why I kind of connected with her a bit. That's why when I do this episode in the middle or at the end, I'm not quite sure yet, you are going to hear a short ad for the magazine so that you know who they are and where to find the latest issue when it does come out. I have an article in there that I'm fairly excited about. It concerns, well, I'm not even going to tell you what it concerns. It's going to be a surprise. So the magazine is free for most issues. Now, on the ones that they do for the Sabbats, the print issue, because they only do printed issues for the Sabbat editions, those do cost, and there's shipping and everything involved in that. And then you also, I believe, now this is pounds, if I'm correct, not US dollars, but it's $2.50. So I'll have to see what that translates to. But anyway, so it is a free issue that you're going to be able to read, and it has all sorts of good information in that. There are some other announcements that I'm going to make. I have recently, as of the 11th of this month, 11/11, the 11/11 portal, which also happens to be my love's birthday, and also Veterans Day, and I'm a veteran. So we always celebrate that day and go out and have fun and have lunch or dinner together. We did that yesterday. We went to our favorite place nearby, which is called Pho, P-H-O, Dang, D-A-N-G. They are a Vietnamese restaurant, and they have the best massaman curry that I have ever tasted, and I have tasted quite a few. The family that owns that, the husband, wife, their daughter works there as well. They are just amazing. Easy to talk to, so involved. They'll come out and sit and chat with you. They're very fun to be around. We had a great time. And then as a nice little gift for her birthday and Veterans Day for me, they took a good portion of our bill off without even telling us until right when we were getting ready to pay. So that was also nice. So if you live in Vermont and you are around the Williston area, you should definitely visit Pho Dang. They're doing takeout right now. Everything inside, if you do eat inside, is social distance. Tables are are more than 6 feet apart. They have a QR code on the table so you can scan it with your phone and see their menu, so there's no touching and passing around menus. All their silverware is sterilized and wrapped. It's they're doing it the right way, and they just actually recently opened up to do dine-in. They opened a lot later than a lot of the other restaurants did because they wanted to make sure everything was super safe, and I really admire that. So check out Fodang if you're in the area. That is probably also what's flicking my wand this week, so we'll just go ahead and get that out of the way. They are very awesome, and I have a couple of other things as well. Also, I have another announcement. I have recently been asked, I've mentioned on here that I am doing December the 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am in a podcast convention. It is a virtual convention. It's going to have tons of podcasters. There's going to be people that supply equipment and things like that in the podcast community. There's going to be listeners. There's going to be panels. And actually, as of yesterday, I was asked to participate in one of the panels. It's going to be me and 2 or 3 other podcasters. It will be moderated by another podcaster. And then listeners will be able to tune in and ask us questions, pick our brains about things like that. And I will announce what our particular panel is going to be discussing as we get closer to that date. So that's also fun. Let's see. The website. I have updated the website quite a bit. You may or may not know, if you follow me on Instagram, that I recently switched podcast host. You won't be able to tell because it was seamlessly done within 1 hour. I have moved to Captivate from Anchor, and I could not be more happier. They made the process of migrating over extremely painless and quick. There was no downtime really at all. I mean, at the best, 2 hours is all it took. I ended up being on 4 more platforms than I originally were on. I thought I'd covered them all, but there were some that I was not even aware of. So they added me to those also. They facilitated an issue that I had with Anchor with getting migrated over because Anchor did not want to let me leave, and that has apparently happened to others. Not going to go into that, but anyway, I have moved now, and I'm extremely happy with the process. So that was also a little bit of an update. They have a player, which you may have seen if you've been to the website, www.sonofawitchpod.com. I had an iHeartRadio player on there where you could listen to episodes straight from the website. However, now the Captivate guys and gals have a really amazing player. You'll see it when you go to the website, but it gives you access to pretty much all of the episodes. It'll start with the newest one, but you can pick whichever one you want to listen to. And right in the player, if you haven't subscribed on your chosen listening platform of choice, you can click a subscribe button. There is a donate button, which I'll get into here in a bit. And there's, let's see, I'm trying to think. I think you can click a button to get to my social media sites, so you can follow there or check those out. It's really cool. It's very streamlined, and I love it. So that is on the site now. I added some more additional content from the Baba Yaga episode from last week, so you will see some of that as well. The story of Vasilisa the Beautiful that features Baba Yaga heavily in that. I added a little bit about going back to my comic love. There's a Hellboy comics, and in that he encounters Baba Yaga. He also did so in the movie, and I talk a little bit about that story and how that played out for the comic lovers out there. And I have also added a Patreon button to my website. I had been holding out on that. I've mentioned it a couple times that I've considered it, but I had been holding back because, as I've said before, I do this because I love it, but again, it does take up a lot of my time, and it's not free. You know, I had to buy some equipment and things like that, which again, not complaining about. I love what I do, not just talking, but also giving information to people, helping them grow, and then and seeing the growth that they have. And when I hear that I've helped someone, or I've answered a question for someone, or I've given them motivation to go down this path even further, that is my greatest reward, honestly. It warms my heart and makes me so happy. However, with the success of the show and the fact that it is now in, I think last I checked, 25 countries and the majority of the United States as far as listeners, I have decided, at the request of some listeners and followers, but also because it's something I've wanted to do for a little while now, that I would like to do 2 episodes a week. In order to do 2 episodes a week, I already devote on a random, just normal episode that's not something big for like a Sabbath or like the Samhain special that I did or something like that. For just a normal episode, I would say that I devote at least 15 to 20 hours to the show in a given week. And that's if the editing and everything else is pretty easy and not, a whole lot of trouble. That's if I also know the topic pretty well and don't need to do a whole lot of research or anything like that on it. If I have to do research, say it's a topic a listener brings up and I'm versed in it, but not enough that I feel comfortable giving out information, I will fact check, I will do a little research, and sometimes the episodes are just a little bit harder to edit than others. So on those weeks, I would say I devote probably 25 to 35 hours to a single episode. I do want to add 2 a week. I think that would be cool. There's a reason why, and I'm going to keep that under my hat as a bit of a secret, but I think that it would be very fun to do so. So, because of the equipment that would be involved to make my life easier as far as editing and being able to produce higher quality content to reach more listeners, which reaching more listeners is what helps me get guests on the show and things of that nature. You may not realize it, but a lot of times guests, if it's a big author or someone major in the community or related to the community, they don't want to come on a show if you don't have a certain number of followers, listeners, etc. So because of that, I am trying to build that listenership and that following of the podcast so that I can influence some of these bigger names that a lot of you would love to hear interviewed or have come on as a guest co-host, those sorts of things. That's another reason that I did the Patreon. I also have mentioned before that I did not ever want to do just straight up asking for donations and things like that. I've had listeners offer to send me money through Venmo and PayPal because they appreciate what I do and it helps them, but I don't want to do that. Even though I've been told when I've said this to them, because I feel like that's giving money towards the show with nothing tangible in return. Their responses have been, you are giving something tangible, you're giving knowledge, and you're helping educate us on things that we're interested in and that will help us in our lives. And while that is true technically, it's still not the type of tangible that I mean. So with the Patreon, I'll give you a real quick overview. Basically, there are, I think, 4 tiers. I have a $5 tier, and for $5, you can do that as a one-time donation, or you can do that as a monthly recurring thing to help support the show. With the $5 tier, you get a shout out as a patron of the show, on the show, and you also get early access to episodes. My episodes typically come out on Fridays. If I'm having some issues or it's a rough week, maybe on Saturday, but they come out at the beginning of the weekend. So you would get access to those early. Likely you would have access as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. So if, say, weekends are busy for you and you want to go ahead and listen, or say you just want to make it into a competition and beat your friends and know what the scoop is, kind of like people do with movies beforehand, then that's also possible. With the second tier, it's $10. You get the same things as the first tier, but you also get get access to patron-only bonus episodes. Those will likely be on the website or on the patron page for Patreon. And with those, it's going to be sometimes audio, sometimes video, but it's basically going to be content that either had to be cut out for time or it was content that I wanted to add to the episode, but because of time, I just could not. Because there are some topics, such as Baba Yaga last week, that if I were to add everything that I wanted to add about it, it would be hours long. There's a lot of information related to certain topics, and so some of that is what that will be. There will be bonus episodes available to patrons that kind of give an insight into the back end or behind the scenes, so to speak, of how I produce the show, showing me editing, showing me actually recording the audio episodes, showing me doing different types of research and things like that. So I've had people kind of ask about the process. Sometimes it is kind of interesting, I will say, but for the most part, it's really uneventful and just me cutting out different parts of audio that spiked up too high and kind of made a click or a pop or ums or ahs, things like that. So, but if the people want to see it, then I understand that because I'm kind of the same way. I like to know what goes into things that I enjoy consuming and listening to and watching. So it's really cool. Sometimes those bonus episodes will be outtakes because there are times that some of the things I say or how I say it, I cut out. But they are really funny, even to me. So I, a lot of times, have fun at my own expense, and those are things that quite often get cut out. So some of that would be things of that nature. Much like with part 1 of the Samhain special, Shane and I had a lot of content that did not make it into part 1, and some of those types of bonus content would be the bonus episodes you get with that tier also. Now, with the $20 tier, you get all of those things from the first 2 tiers. Plus, well, no, I'm sorry. Yes, all of those things from the first 2 tiers. You also get an exclusive Son of a Witch sticker that is not available on the merch shop or anywhere else. It would be available only to patrons. And you also get a Son of a Witch logo mug, which those would be if you do the recurring monthly patronage, and that would be at the 3rd month is when that would be shipped out to you. I also am going to, and I have not yet, but I decided last night that in that $20 tier, I'm also going to include a one-time virtual 30-minute pendulum reading. So that can be set up for whatever's convenient for you and I, and you would be on camera with me asking the questions that you want answers to, and then you would be able to see the pendulum, me holding it, what it's saying, that sort of thing. That's going to be pretty cool as well. Now, that one would not be one of the recurring things. Would not be after 3 months. That would just be if you do recurring payments at that tier level, you just let me know when you want that scheduled, and as long as I am available, we can get that done. And then there is a $30 tier level, and at that level, you get all of those other things from the first 3 levels, including that 30-minute pendulum reading. You also get an additional 30-minute pendulum reading. And then you also, after 3 months, instead of just getting the sticker, the logo mug, you would get the sticker, the logo mug, and a Son of a Witch tote bag, which is really good quality, really nice, and it looks amazing. So that is what I have as of right now. There will be other things that I add to that at different times. But yes, so you can again do either one-time the Patreon is a one-time or a recurring monthly. And the tangible items like the merch would be if you do the monthly recurring process. I have on the website above the patron or the Patreon button put a just straight up donate button as well. That's done through PayPal, so it's very secure. You can use pretty much any type of card, your PayPal account, whatever. And the only reason that I put a donate button and a Patreon Patreon button is because the donate button allows you to do a one-time donation, but you can set whatever amount you want it to be. Even if you wanted to just donate $1, you can do that. With the Patreon, the lowest that you can do, I think you can do like a $2 tier. But yeah, anyway, it was just easier to do that, to allow people, if they just want to do a one-time donation, they want to set their own amount, they can do that easily, securely, right there through PayPal. So those are those things. And Patreon and PayPal are both very secure. Most people have at least heard of them or used them at one point possibly. And yeah, so that's what that's there for. And of course, I'm going to continue to do episodes just as I have done. I'm not ever going to charge for the normal episodes like I do every week. That is just something above and beyond. If you get value from the show, you love the show, you want me to be able to do more things like more episodes weekly or add more content or bring in bigger authors and things of that nature to interview, then you can do that and help support the show. And if you do help support the show, you'll get all those little benefits depending on the tier you choose, exclusive only to the patrons. And you would also have my immense and eternal gratitude because I do love what I do. However, I have been just recently, a week ago, got to go back to work, and I have been out of work due to COVID originally since the end of May. And then for about the past month and a half, due to my back, I had an injury. So I did not get a stimulus check like most people did. I did not get any type of unemployment because the place that I work for doesn't qualify for that type of thing. So again, not giving you a sob story, but just telling you that I'm not being greedy. I just want to add more things, but I don't have the funds out of my own pocket to do so right away. So that's why I wanted to put those up there. Now, moving on from that, I am also going to get right into one of the first things that we're doing this week. I have a magical herb of the week for you. It is a very fun herb. It's one that, being I have Asian American family, that it is a commonly used herb or spice, however you want to view it. And it also has some magical uses also. There's also going to be a recipe that I am going to give you that is also very useful and will be pretty easy to make. So that's going to be in there too. And that is to help increase your power, your inner power. And that's also something that we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about the moon phases, the upcoming moon phases, and how that can affect you and your workings. I will go over what's flicking my wand and boiling my cauldron. And then we're going to get into the topic of the week, which is, as you may have guessed, 13th episode coming out Friday the 13th. I am going to cover all about the superstition and lore and history of that, why people think that it is bad luck, why the superstitions exist, some historical accounts of things that have happened around Friday the 13th and on that day, etc. So it's going to be a very fun show. I'm going to take a quick pause, grab something to drink, and I will be right back. Okay, and we are back for the magical herb of the week. So this week's herb is something that we use in our family quite a bit. We have Asian and Asian American family members, and because of that, we use a lot of ginger. So you may not have known that ginger does have some magical qualities, and I will kind of go over some of those. And then I am also going to give you a recipe for an oil that you can do also. So let's get into that. Ginger's official name is Zingiber officinale. It is a dried root. Bulk name is African ginger. It is the masculine gender. It is of the planet Mars and the element of fire. Now, if you've ever had ginger, you know it does have a very spicy taste. Sometimes you can get the ginger ales and things like that use the real ginger, and it has a bit of a bite or a kick to it. So that makes sense that it would be with fire, because it can be considered or described as spicy. And the powers that this particular root is really the proper term for it is it can be used for love, money, success, power. So if you have spell work or anything like that you're doing, you can use ginger in those, and it will help amplify and increase the power of that. Now, the magical uses for ginger: you can eat ginger before performing spells to lend them power. Since you have been heated up by the ginger, keep in mind it is described and has a bit of a spicy taste to it. So it's also used in a lot of love spells. Again, you all know my feelings on love spells. I don't do them. Do not message me asking me to do love spells. And that also includes, don't ask me how to do love spells on your own. I don't like love spells. I think now, if both parties are into it and they want to try to just amplify their relationship or make it stronger, something like that, maybe, but I'm still not going to help you do it, because in my opinion, it in many ways, most often, violates the free will of someone. So as far as that, you can use it in those, though. If you choose to do so on your own, I will tell you that there is a higher likelihood of things backfiring a lot of times, or not necessarily backfiring. It worked, but it's just not the outcome that you really wanted. So you can also use ginger roots, plant them and grow them to attract money. You can use the powdered root in pockets or onto money for this purpose. It's also used in success spells or to ensure the success of a magical operation. So you're seeing kind of a theme here. You can use it a lot to help your spell have a little more power, a little more success to it. So it's also in the Pacific and Dobu Islanders, they can make use of ginger in their magic. They chew it and spit it at the seat of an illness to cure it, and also spit chewed ginger at oncoming storms while at sea to halt it. So that is the magical uses of ginger. There are many more. Again, this comes from Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, which is more or less my go-to. I have used ginger for a very long time and just kind of wanted to give you some ideas about how it can and is used. So I also have a recipe for an oil that I am going to give you that makes use of ginger. Now, this is going to make use of ginger essential oil. So you can get that online. If you know someone that makes it locally, that's the preferred way. Support local. But if not, you can order it and find it online in different apothecaries or witch shops. Just do a Google search for ginger oil and you should be able to find that. A lot of Asian markets and things like that will also have that occasionally. So you could also check there if you have one locally nearby. But this is a power oil. It's going to kind of infuse yourself with additional power during potent rituals or spell work that you're doing, and you can anoint with the power oil. So let's say you're doing candle magic. You could use this particular oil to anoint the candle, even if you wanted to kind of rub this oil on the candle and then roll it in some herbs to kind of assist with that spell, things like that. You can anoint like maybe your wrist or, your third eye or something like that with this as well. If you do that, none of these oils are going to be anything that would hurt you unless you have an allergy to them. So you always want to test again on an innocuous spot, maybe like an ankle or somewhere that's not going to be that bad, a tiny little area. Give it some time and just make sure you're not going to have a reaction to it. Again, anything that you use at your own risk. But yeah, if you have allergies or have sensitivities to things, always try that. So without further ado, the power oil, you're going to use 4 drops of orange oil. You're going to use 1 drop of ginger oil, and you're going to use 1 drop of pine oil. Now, you can make this in larger batches. You would just amplify this. So, I mean, if you wanted to, say, make a good bit and kind of save it, you could do 40 drops of orange and 10 drops of ginger and 10 drops of pine. So, something like that. So, you would just basically, however much you want to make, just kind of multiply that by, for that one, that was multiplied by 10. So, you could do it that way and make larger batches, but could also, and this is what I do sometimes, use a little bit of a carrier oil as well. And that's kind of what I would recommend, especially if you have sensitivities. But you could also do 4 drops of orange, 1 drop ginger, 1 drop pine, and 1 drop, say, coconut or jojoba oil. So if you did it that way, you would do, let's say you multiplied it again by 10. You'd do 40 drops of orange. You'd do 10 drops of ginger, 10 drops of pine, 10 drops of the jojoba, the coconut, whatever. Or you could add a little more of the carrier oil if you choose to. You want to make it a little bit more, not as, if you want to make it a little bit more easier, like if you're someone who has sensitivities, things like that. And that's the way with a lot of things, folks. You can with certain things, you can kind of adjust it to how it works best for you. Me personally, I do just the straight up orange, ginger, and pine, and then I do it in batches. Like I said, I'll do, a lot of times I'll put mine in a bigger bottle, so I'll multiply it by 20. So, I would use 80 drops of orange and 20 drops of ginger, 20 drops of pine. But anyway, you get the idea. So that is the power oil using the power of ginger, which was the magical herb of the week. So we're going to take another quick break, and I will be right back with some lunar information for your upcoming week. Okay, and we are back to chat a little bit about some lunar love. We are going to be giving you the lunar forecast for the upcoming weeks and currently. So, just to let you know, I did make a little bit of an error earlier in the introduction. I had stated that the full moon was in 12 days, and actually the full moon coming up, we have a new moon coming very soon, as a matter of fact. That is going to be happening in just a little over 1 day after this drops, so late Saturday. We do have a full moon, and that is going to be a Gemini full moon at 4:30 a.m. on November the 30th. So if you're looking for some new moon spell work, you're going to be doing that tomorrow, Sunday, maybe even a little into Monday. And then if you are looking for some full moon magic, then you are going to be setting your calendar and alarm for November the 30th. So keep in mind when the moon phases like that happen, new moon, full moon, particularly for me anyway, the power associated with those are going to carry over for, it's going to be a couple days. The full moon is going to be full for a little bit anyway. And then the power that you can use that for, say it's like the very next day and it's just barely out of phase, then you should still be okay if you have work schedule or something else preventing you from doing it on the day itself. So just keep that in mind. And then also for November, and this is coming out on the 13th. So that is going to be considered the festival of Jupiter, and that is a waning moon that we currently have. The moon phase is in the 4th quarter, and it's going to look white. Right now, the moon sign is in Libra. It enters Scorpio at 11:19 a.m. on Friday, and then the incense that can be associated with that for spell work and things like that are going to be rose. For Saturday the 14th, you're going to have a waning moon. The moon phase will be in the 4th quarter. The color will look a little black. Moon sign will be in Scorpio, and the incense for that day is magnolia. Now, if you go into Sunday, Sunday is considered in Japan the 753 festival. That is the waning moon. You will see the new moon around 12:07 a.m. The color is gold. The moon sign is still in Scorpio, and it will enter Sagittarius around 10:47 a.m. The incense you're going to use for that will be marigold. Now for Monday, November 16th, that is St. Margaret of Scotland's Day. That will be a waning moon. The moon phase will be in the first quarter. The color will look a little gray. Moon sign is Sagittarius, and the incense Narcissus. For Tuesday the 17th, Queen Elizabeth's Ascension Day. That is the waxing moon. The moon phase will be first quarter. It will have a bit of a reddish tint, depending on where you're at, and the moon sign is still in Sagittarius. Now the moon will enter Capricorn at 11:35 a.m., and the incense is Yang Lang. Wednesday the 18th, Independence Day in Morocco, and that is the waxing moon. The moon phase is the first quarter. The color is topaz, moon sign still in Capricorn, and the incense is lilac. For Thursday the 19th, that is Garifuna Settlement Day in Belize. That is waxing moon. Moon phase first quarter, color purple. Moon sign still in Capricorn, though it will enter Aquarius around 3:25 p.m. that day, and the incense is jasmine. So that is your lunar forecast for the upcoming week, in case you need to plan your spell work or rituals, etc. around that. And now we are going to take another quick pause, and then I will be right back with the topic of the week. Okay, everybody, we are back now, and we are talking about Friday the 13th. What does Friday the 13th bring to mind to you? If you're me, Mike D, then I would say, growing up as a kid, I was taught that a black cat crossing your path would be bad luck unless you drew an X in the air. And I think you even had to say, like, damn cat or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But basically, what we're talking about are superstitions, walking under ladders, and the fact that a lot of people get concerned. There's actually a phobia, which we'll talk about that as well. So there's a lot of things associated with it. People often look at it in a superstitious way. A lot of people in the pagan community look at it in a very lucky kind of way. So it really just kind of depends on your perspective, to be honest. It's not really exactly certain when the particular tradition began. Negative superstitions have always kind of swirled around the number 13 for centuries, so there's really, it's hard to pinpoint. But while Western cultures have historically associated the number 12 with completeness, there are 12 days of Christmas, 12 months in zodiac signs, 12 labors of Hercules, 12 gods of Olympus, and 12 tribes of Israel, just to name a few. So the successor 13 has a long history as a sign of bad luck to begin with. And the ancient code of Hammurabi, for example, reportedly omitted a 13th law from its list of legal rules, though it was kind of probably a clerical error, could have been, but superstitious people sometimes point to that as proof of 13's long-standing negative associations. So the fear of the number 13 has even earned a psychological term, and that is triskaidekaphobia. 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 I don't know. Anyway, but until the late 1800s, no one really felt that Fridays that happened to fall on the 13th day of the month were anything really all that woo-woo or special or anything like that. So why exactly do we do that now? I mean, how the date kind of became associated with the unlucky one as far as numbers go, I really don't know. The idea was really implanted in the cultural consciousness by about 1980, and that was around the time the slasher movie Friday the 13th came out. So he was a hockey masked killer, Jason Voorhees, and taken on a life of its own. I mean, it's had about, I think to date, 12 films that they've done with it, lots of books and comic books, things like that. It's really kind of no surprise that Google search of the Friday the 13th finds the term shot up use in books in about 1980. So that's quoted from The Surprising Origins of 9 Common Superstitions. And the idea that 13 was an unlucky number could go back to ancient mythology, though, because according to Donald Dawsey, author of Holiday Folklore, Phobias, and Fun, a Norse myth told of a dinner party for 12 gods at which a 13th guest showed up uninvited. And the gatecrasher, the trickster god, Loki, obviously, shot the god of joy and happiness, Balder. Christian tale of the Last Supper, likewise, kind of holds Judas as Jesus' betrayer as the unlucky 13th guest. So, according to biblical tradition, 13 guests attended the Last Supper, held on Maundy, M-A-U-N-D-Y, Thursday, including Jesus and his 12 apostles, one of whom, Judas, betrayed him. And the next day, of course, was Good Friday, the day of Jesus' crucifixion, per the Bible. The seating at the arrangement of the Last Supper is kind of believed to have given rise to a long-standing Christian superstition that having 13 guests at a table was a bad omen, that it was actually kind of courting death. So if you want to look at the actual name, Friday was associated with the mother creation goddesses for whom the day was named. So in Anglo-Saxon, Scandinavian, Icelandic, Teutonic cultures, she was called different things. Freya, F-R-E-I-A, Freyja, Fur, Freya, and Frigg. Friday is Frigg's Day, Friggadag in Old English, Firedag in Danish, Freitag in Dutch, and German. And I'm sure I'm not saying any of those even close to what the languages probably sound like. But anyway, that's what they are. And in Mediterranean lands, she reigned as Venus. In Latin, Friday is the day of Venus. Dies Veneris, Vendredi in French, and Venerde in Italian, and Viernes in Spanish. So kind of associates all those different types of deities and goddesses and things of that nature with the term Friday or the word Friday. And in Western culture specifically, it's been considered unlucky since probably about the 1300s. Some kind of think that goes back to the publication of the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, which is actually one of my favorite things I ever read in school. Very, very cool. But there's older occurrences that suggest Friday being unlucky resides in even further events and lore in the past. With Christians, it's the day Jesus was crucified. Some biblical scholars believe Eve tempted Adam with the forbidden fruit on a Friday. Tradition holds that that was Friday. Great Flood is supposed to have happened on a Friday, and the Knights Templar, the Desmoulins, and other French Templars were slaughtered by order of King Philip IV of France on Friday, October 13th, 1307. So, yeah, okay, that's a lot of bad stuff that happened on Friday the 13th. Yeah, so is it real? Is it not? I mean, again, we'll keep going a little further. So, but they are a good example of how Christians then and today have altered history to enhance their own importance and influence. So a lot of these accounts and things like that have been translated a lot over the years. And, just like the game you play at a party where one person says something and then it goes down the line and then it's completely different by the time it gets to the end. So it's just something that you'll have to kind of look a little further into and see kind of what you think about it. But it's also not just a religious thing. In the early days of Rome, Friday was execution day. So in Britain, Friday became Hangman's Day. And then many cultures have linked Friday to being a bad day to travel or to start new projects. In modern days, it's linked to being a bad day for releasing new products on the commercial market. Financially, I guess that doesn't bode well for me and my show, does it? Financially, Black Friday has been associated with stock market crashes and other disasters since the 1800s, which is amusing. Think that in modern times, Black Friday is probably the biggest shopping day of the year. Normally, this year it'll probably be done virtually, and that's fine. There was also the 13 Club. Now that's something that's been talked about quite a bit over the years, but in the late 19th century, there was a New Yorker named Captain William Fowler. I think he was born, 1827 to 1897, and he sought to remove the enduring stigma surrounding the number 13, particularly the unwritten rule about not having 13 guests at a dinner table, by founding an exclusive society called the 13 Club, and they would get together regularly on the 13th day of the month in room 13 of the Knickerbocker Cottage, a popular watering hole that Fowler owned from 1863 to 1883. Now, before sitting down for a 13-course dinner, members would actually pass beneath a ladder and a banner reading Morituri te salutamus, Latin for "those of us who are about to die salute you." So subsequent dinners followed the same pattern. Reporting on the club's first annual meeting the following January, the scribe crowed gleefully that out of the entire roll of membership, whether they have participated or not at the banquet table, not a single member is dead or has even had a serious illness. On the contrary, so far as can be learned, the members during the past 12 months have been exceptionally healthy and fortunate. Though you might be thinking, okay, well, those people sound a little crazy, but we've had 4 former U.S. presidents that were members of the 13 Club: Chester A. Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, and Theodore Roosevelt. They would join the 13 Club's ranks at one time or another. So similar groups also popped up, like the Morgue Club. So that's kind of up in the air because we don't really have a whole lot of boxed documents or reports for them, and vampires sprang up around the country. So eventually enthusiasm waned, and while the 13 Club still pops up in newspaper stories as late as the 1920s, it quietly faded kind of out of existence. So then if you fast forward, you've got an important milestone in pop culture anyway, and the history of Friday the 13th in particular occurred in 1907 with the publication of a novel, Friday the 13th, written by Thomas William Lawson. A lot of people don't realize that that was a novel originally, and then the book told the story of a New York City stockbroker who plays on superstition about the date to create chaos on Wall Street and make a killing on the market. And the horror movie Friday the 13th, released in 1980, introduced the world to a hockey mask wearing killer named Jason Voorhees, and is perhaps the best known example of the famous superstition in the pop culture history. It spawned multiple sequels, comic books, novellas, video games, merchandise, and all sorts of really freaky looking costumes. So congratulations to them. Now, you might be asking, but Mike, come on, seriously, what has happened of any kind of deal? So on Friday, October 13th, 1307, officers of King Philip IV of France arrested hundreds of the Knights Templar, which were a powerful religious and military order that was founded in the 12th century for the defense of the Holy Land. They were imprisoned on charges of various illegal behaviors, but really because the king wanted access to their financial resources. Many Templars were later executed. Some cite the link with Templars as the origin of the Friday the 13th superstition. So is it not? No one really knows definitively, but a lot of people do think so. But like many legends involving the Templars and their history, the truth is kind of hazy and murky. I mean, they were very secretive as well. So in more recent times, though, a number of traumatic events have occurred on Friday the 13th, including the German bombing of Buckingham Palace. That was back in September of 1940. We had the murder of Kitty Genovese in Queens, New York, March 1964. There was a cyclone that killed more than 300,000 people in Bangladesh, November of 1970. The disappearance of a Chilean Air Force plane in the Andes, October 1972. The death of rapper Tupac Shakur, September 1996. And the crash of the Costa Concordia cruise ship off the coast of Italy, which killed 30 people in January of 2012. All of those things happened on a Friday the 13th. But did they happen because Friday the 13th is unlucky or dangerous? But let's keep going a little further, though. It's not just a pagan thing either. You can like or honor the 13th, and it's not restricted to modern-day pagans. It's been in history for a long time, as we've discussed, and in many pre-Christian cultures, Friday is linked to a day of worship. In many pagan societies, it's the day to receive blessings from the gods, and many pagan cultures chose this sixth day of the week, Friday, to celebrate and honor their gods and goddesses for the gifts they had received in the days prior, and to petition their chosen deity for a favor in the days of the coming week. So, with all the good luck and perfect associations from pagan practices, it's easy to kind of see how the number 13 and Friday began to be vilified by anyone who was not pagan, any cultures that were non-pagan, and especially by the early Christian church. As Christianity spread and denounced old pagan ways, or the old religion, the concepts held by pagans became linked to negativity and evil. The bishops couldn't convert a pagan concept into its Christian practice, then it was defamed and cursed. And the number 13 and Friday are good examples of this. So, yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit about Friday the 13th. There's a lot more to this. I mean, like a lot more. And you can look those things up. I am going to post some of those on the website. So I'm going to make you kind of check out my website a little bit because I'm going to start posting a lot of extra content there. So that will be free content on the page. There is also, guys, and gals and ghouls and goblins and epic humans of all kinds. Let me tell you real quick too. I am coming up with new content. You saw the lunar forecast this week. That's going to start becoming a mainstay. I've had a lot of people asking me for that type of thing, so I've decided to just make it a regular part of the show. I did not go over a boiling my cauldron too much in depth this week because I just didn't really have much going on that had me upset. So there are lots of good things happening, and I have mentioned many of those on the Instagram page at Son of a Witch Pod. I know there are some that do not like Instagram or Facebook maybe, and they just maybe can go to the website. I have had a couple of messages from people who just send me a chat and say, hey, look, I don't really do either of these, but I want to keep up with everything. So that helps me out. If you go to the website, www.sonofawitchpod.com, you can scroll to the very, very bottom and there is a email sign up. The email sign up helps me tell you when the new episodes come out, if there's any type of promotion going on, a contest that I might be doing, all sorts of things. I am trying to add more value to the show. I'm trying to add an extra show per week, so there would be 2. So I'm trying to add a lot of things that I can continue giving to all of you that have supported me and listened to me and give me such glowing comments and things that just warm my heart. So that is pretty much all I've got. I will say that I got some of this information from the Origins of Unlucky Friday the 13th, which is on livescience.com. There was another one on livescience.com, 13 freaky things that happened on Friday the 13th. And then the New York Historical Society had an article called Frigga Triskeda Phobes need not apply, which had some information there as well. Some of this also came from thehistorychannel.com, and other than that, that's about it. When you go to the website, if you want me to be able to continue to put out more and more content and more higher produced content and more things that I can offer, such as prizes and contests and continued bonus information, things like that, and you can check out at the bottom, there is a Patreon link. If you like the show and you would like to support the show, that is the best way to do so. That will help me continue to do more and more as time goes on. And if you don't want to do anything that for long term, you can do a one-time or a ongoing recurring payment. As well as a patron, you will get bonus content, and there are different tiers. I'm not going to take too much of your time going into them, but if you click on that, become a patron, it'll take you to a website that'll show you all the different tiers that I'm doing. I will add that tiers 3 and 4 will have each a 30-minute virtual pendulum reading with me that we can schedule up. So if you have any questions, just drop me an email, or you can hit me up on the chat on the website at Son of a Witch Pod on Instagram. And I hope to talk to you again very soon next week. Take care. Bye. Hey everybody, real quick, just want to tell you something about, I'm just so excited about it, I just don't even know how to put it into words. You may have heard me if you follow me on the Instagram page at Son of a Witch Pod on Instagram, talk about it in a live stream. However, I have an article coming out in a witch magazine this month, November. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the magazine first of all, because it is such a cool thing. It's called witchzine.co.uk is the website, and it's Witch Magazine. It was created by Becky Milner. She's a writer, photographer, and artist from the West Midlands, and it began as a West Midlands witch publication in January 2020 and evolved into Witch Magazine as the number of readers grew worldwide. Becky's got a degree in creative writing and English literature and specializes in esoteric subjects, poetry, horror, fiction. Practicing witch and pagan of 20 years, she is a creator, editor, and contributor of Witch Magazine. She also facilitates the Pagan Craft Fairs and the Crow's Feet Witches Meet, a monthly pagan moot in Stonebridge. So, really cool publication. It comes out every full moon. It's an independently published magazine. It's got writers from across the globe, from all different paths, featuring anything from witchcraft to occult, pagan, druid practices, and anything in between. It's also got some artist features, poetry, fiction, and a monthly grimoire. So it's just such a cool magazine. It's free. It's online. On the Sabbath editions, they do charge for print editions. Those are the only print editions available currently. And on the other Sabbaths, for the digital copies, there is a little bit of a charge as well. Well worth it. You're going to love this magazine, and be sure to look for your boy and his article and maybe even an ad. Talk to you soon, everybody. Take care.